Kavis Reed, you recently made a hire of a head coach, a first-time CFL head coach, but a guy with a wealth of experience, Mike Sherman from the National Football League and the NCAA. What are the things that you need to do as a general manager to make sure a coach who is new to the Canadian Football League like him at this stage of his career in life is successful?
Infrastructure is very important in this situation, and infrastructure being put into human resources around him of people that are familiar with the league, have a lot of credibility in the league, and are willing to share information with Coach Sherman. Coach Sherman is a sponge. He's done a lot of research on his own, but we're contacted and have discussed with a number of people who are part of the league and have been a part of the league to work with Coach Sherman to help expedite his understanding of our league.
Your team is coming off a tough year, and you had a veteran team last year. How much turnover do you anticipate on your roster by the time you get to week number 1 from week number 18 at the end of last year?
There will be turnovers. The coordinators that we've hired have started the process of really looking at the players on our football team currently and the type of players that they would like to have. That's going to mean some attrition. That's going to mean some turnover. We're an aged roster. That's going to mean some attrition. That's going to mean some turnover. So we probably will have a different roster to give a percentage as to what the difference is going to be. That's going to be when the collective get together and we start to decide on the direction we want this roster to go.
I know I talked to you several weeks ago about the quarterback position. Of course, you have Darian Durant from last year. I believe he has a significant bonus that is due on January the 15th. Where are you on a decision about the future of Darian Durant of the Montreal Alouettes?
Ever since Grey Cup week, I've met with Darian and his representatives. We've had very good chats. I would like to say for the record is that a lot of Darian's difficulties aren't Darian's fault from last year. There are a lot of factors that played into that. So the talent itself really got some unfair publicity in the negative way, and we have to take that in consideration. It doesn't mitigate the fact that we have had a very difficult season, and oftentimes it's easy to blame the quarterback, but we've had very good conversations with Darian and his representatives, and we'll see where that goes.
And you have to make some significant decision before Monday?
We do. And that's a lot of the discussions, and we want to make certain that one, with the new coach in place and the new coordinators in place, that those guys have input as well. We've done that homework. I've received their input. I won't share it, but I've received their input, and I've discussed that with his representative.
And those conversations obviously continue at this stage.
It has to, given our situation at quarterback.
You went, I will say, off the board for a head coach a little bit, and it was quite a surprise. I got some texts very late the night before your news conference saying, I think the Owls might hire Mike Sherman. I had a couple of them, and it turned out well. Is it possible that you might go off the board for a quarterback? And by that I mean somebody who has not been in the Canadian Football League, and if not necessarily as your starter, somebody to come in and compete for the job.
When we talk about process, we have to evaluate what that process is. And for the Montreal Alouettes, since Anthony Cavill has retired, we've been searching for that next franchise quarterback. I'm a firm believer from a football perspective, at some particular point, you're going to have to put your stake in the ground and say, we're developing a younger guy to be our guy long term. When you oftentimes look for the quick fix and don't have a plan, a succession plan, you delay that process, and you're continually putting the franchise in a difficult situation. Every quarterback that has a marquee value today in the CFL started as a young guy and had to go through the process of being a backup, apprenticing, going through the growing pains their first year or their first couple of years, and then asserting himself as a distinct quarterback. One come to mind, Ricky Ray was almost an instant success, but
he's an exception.
He's an exception. He's an outlier. Most other have to go through a process, and we have to educate our fans and all of our stakeholders as to what our strategy is in terms of developing that next quarterback. Otherwise, we're going to continuously have the conversation of who's the next franchise quarterback.
So you're not thinking in terms of bringing somebody in who would be from an ex-NFL guy and counting on him to be your quarterback for 2018?
We've put every possibility on the table that we can think of. We've put names on the table that we can think of that will fit what we're trying to accomplish as an organization, because that quarterback is a CEO. He's a prime representative of your team, and from a talent perspective, from a scheme perspective. and we've deliberated on those, and we'll see where that come out. But I will say this, it's more likely a younger individual that will have the opportunity to grow.
Speaking of quarterbacks, and I'm sure you knew this one was coming, Johnny Manziel's agent this week put out a statement saying they were given permission to meet with executives of another team and talk about the idea of working out a trade. You're the team that seems to have the most obvious need at quarterback. Were you guys that team? And was that something that continues in terms of your interest?
That name is a young man that has accomplished a lot in college football, and he's a very, very popular name, and everyone's impressed by Johnny Manziel. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are in a good position with that young man, and we respect that. And our football team, we are going to go through the process of looking for a quarterback, but Johnny Manziel is right now the property and topic of discussion for the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Appreciate your time, and good luck this offseason.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dave.